Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Contrarians. I have a very special guest with me, and we're doing a new show that Davey's helping me pilot today. So, welcome, Davey, to the show. How are you?
Hello, I wouldn't trust me as a co-pilot for anything. I think you'd be better off with inflatable from airplane. But
Well, we're stuck with you now, so we're gonna have to move forward
mm,
ahead with this, anyways. But the idea, I had an idea kicking around that was inspired by Davey and Davey's channel. But I it came up with this idea, inspired by Davey, to kind of reach out to some of the folks that have been participants on our channel, just to kind of do a quick little one-on-one chat, just to get to know them a little bit better and kind of shine a spotlight on them. And that's why we're calling this Contrarian Spotlight. So today, Davey's going to be my co-host, and I'm going to ask him a few fun questions so you can get to know Davey better, and Davey can tell you what he's up to and what some of his interests are. Are you ready, Davey?
born ready, Marco.
What got you into music, and why are you such a fan of music, and what are some of your favorite bands to talk about?
Boy, musical family. Being raised in Scotland, you have the tradition of folk music and whatnot, which comes from one side of the family. And then my dad's side of the family is Irish, so you have a completely different type of folk music. But my parents were of the boomer generation, so they kind of rebelled against that as well, and came up through what I guess from the other side of the pond would be called the British invasion. My mum would introduce me to the Beatles, the Stones, etc., etc. But her favourite are and always were the Kinks, which is filtered down to me. And then my dad, he was much more of a hard rocker. And he was much more into Uriah Heep and Sabbath and things like that. So it's kind of melding pot of influences, and then like a lot of people, I guess, in our kind of circles, started working in a record store when I was in my early 20s, just through, you hang out long enough, they end up just giving you a few shifts rather than just have you hang out and pollute the place too much, so they end up just employing you. So through that's the best musical education you can get. It's just working in a record store listening to music pretty much all day for 4 years. So, yeah.
Nice. And you have your own channel. What's the
Mm-hmm.
name of your channel, and why did you start your channel? What made you want to get into talking about music and in your channel's case, film as well?
It was a lot of my things sound like they come from some kind of hallucinogenic dream. And believe me, there's no hallucinogens involved, but it does happen in dreams for some reason. Where I just decided at literally 2 o'clock in the morning one night to look for some video, whatever it was. And as you'll have discovered with Mystique, for example, sometimes you go looking for information and you think, there's nothing on here. I wish I could see that video. And then you start to think to yourself, why don't I make that video? And then somebody else doesn't have this problem ever again. So whatever the case was then, maybe I wasn't qualified to make the video, but I just started making other videos. And I thought, well, if it's a well done topic, that's been overcooked and overbaked, I'll put my own twist on it. So I made the decision to eschew production values. So people started commenting in my early videos about oh, I love your background with all your albums and stuff. I thought, you listen to me, you don't look at my albums. So I get rid of the albums, started filming elsewhere. Decided no edits. The mistakes would always be the best thing. So everything that happens live and fresh. Often the mistakes are the best parts, and the mistakes have led to more interesting videos in general. It's all about how you cover for them mostly. And then you end up getting, hopefully, a reputation as being reasonably entertaining to watch, even if you're covering the same old kind of subjects sometimes. And on occasion, you manage to hit pay dirt and cover stuff that hasn't been covered so often, you pick up a bunch of new subscribers and people are interested in your kind of just your rationale of doing things anyway. And then eventually they start watching for you as much as the content, which is rather bizarre when you get those comments where people say they've got no interest in the content of the video. They just want to see what you've got to say about it. You think, watch some telly. Watch some telly, for goodness sake. Watch me on a Friday night. Yeah. And the channel's called Davy's Cinema Flicks and Music Picks. And that was an obtuse choice as well, because I rationaled that if you can't remember the name of a channel, you don't deserve to see the channel. That was my hubris. Again, 2 o'clock in the morning. So no, I thought, well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's cinema flicks because, you know, you see the flicks at the cinema, and then music picks was a bizarre pun on picks of a guitar, which made sense at 2 in the morning. And by that point, I'd already registered with YouTube, so it was too late in the game. But luckily this week, YouTube have installed handles, so it's a nice @Flicks and Picks, which is a bit more, rolls off the tongue a little bit easier. Flicks and Picks.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. What's one of your favorite artists that you never get sick of talking about? And you can throw in there, what's one of your favorite movies or movie genres you never get sick of talking about?
Yeah, I guess favorite artists is series I started this week actually. I wanted to wait for a while to launch it because I didn't want to start something when I had 50 subscribers and then you've already covered something that means a lot to you, nobody's watched it, and you don't really know what you're doing, although that's never stopped me. So I decided to wait for nearly a year now to start covering the band, my favorite band from North America. I kind of cover the bases by saying my favorite North American band are the Band, my favorite American band are the Beach Boys, and my favorite British band are the Kinks. So the long-term plan is that solo I'll cover all 3 of those. I'm doing the Beach Boys with our mutual friend and contrarian Grant Arthur and Ryan Gavalier from Ryan's Final Destination. So we're doing that anyway, so that's fine. Ryan and I'll pick up some Brian Wilson miscellany in my channel in due course. But the band have literally just launched a series on this week, starting with their debut music from Big Pink. Yeah, so I've got the box sitting right here. Yeah, that's started just this yesterday. Yeah, no, 2 days ago. Given that we've now turned midnight here, but yeah, yesterday for all intents and purposes.
And what's the film or film franchise you never get sick of talking about?
Probably. I mean, I'm on Sea of Tranquility's Monsters down quite a lot, so people probably do associate me quite a bit with horror because of that. But one of the main reasons I'm on that is because I do have such a strong passion for classic British horror in terms of Hammer horror with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. So I'd say the vintage Hammer horrors, which kind of segue into Amicus horrors and Tygons, and those old school British productions with kind of very plummy accents and not always the biggest budgets, but plenty of atmosphere. I much prefer a chiller to a gore fest any day of the week. So I'd say Hammer horror and the ilk, old school British horror, but old school American horror too. I love some Universal action. So.
I love those Hammer films. Love those.
Yeah.
Frankenstein, all of those. Dracula, Christopher Lee, like all those are cool.
Yeah. I mean, I could watch Peter Cushing till the cows come home. It's certainly more interesting than watching the cows till Peter Cushing comes home. But yeah, I mean, Peter Cushing to me is one of the most underrated actors because he spent so much of his career doing genre film. But there's never a performance, even in if Christopher Lee was in Junk and he knew it, he would let you know in his performance sometimes. Whereas Peter Cushing always played it to the hilt. You know, he could be in the most awful schlock and still be absolutely remarkable, and still played it just wonderfully. He's a real hero of mine. I absolutely adore Peter Cushing.
Awesome. We know you love music. We know you love films. What's something we don't know about you?
Oh my goodness, where are the bodies buried there? What's something you don't know about me? I guess something that people wouldn't expect of me is that in work, I'm responsible for a team. I won't say what sector I'm in because it's not a particularly popular sector. Well, actually, I will say whenever I ever get a popularity, it's the energy sector, which, oh my goodness, you'd think I personally went out there and raised the price of oil barrels, like I'm some kind of Bond villain or something.
Oh,
And
it's
then
your fault.
profit will come this way. You know, me and Vladimir have got this kind of deal going on, you know. Vlad, I call him. Yeah, people perhaps due to having a somewhat flippant online persona don't probably imagine that I could or I would be responsible for people's welfare. Frankly, I don't believe that either. I think that's a very bad decision on their behalf. Yeah, I mean, I like to. It's one of the reasons I like to have so much fun is because my work isn't particularly fun, and none that it's bad. No, actually, that's a lie too. It is a bad job, and people don't enjoy it terribly much. But I think it's important, therefore, to try and make it more fun for the individuals concerned, and try and take care of their welfare that way. So yeah, I'd say that's something that people will be a bit more surprised about. That somebody's crazy enough to give me responsibility over other people's livelihoods and welfare.
You're obviously a collector of music and film. What's your prized possession?
Oh boy. I mean, things aren't worth anything unless, of course, they mean something to you individually. You know, you could stick your most prized possession on eBay and it wouldn't be worth jack to anybody else, but it's priceless to you. And I'd say to be sentimental for a moment, my dad died when I was young, and I have his record collection. So my copy of Neil Young's Harvest that I listened to is my dad's. My copy of Very Heavy, Very Humble by Uriah Heep is my dad's. And he died when I was 9, and young enough to not be 100% aware of everything that's going on, but old enough to appreciate what is going on. And it's a great connection. You know, every time I would revisit, you know, we're talking a good few, maybe 500-600 albums. Every time I would find another one where I thought I didn't even know I liked them, it would feel like a connection from. Let's go back to a Hammer thing, from beyond the grave, to be rather morbid about it. But it felt like something that was meant to happen, you know, like almost like there was a connection that happened purely organically. It wasn't a case of I found the LP and then listened to it. It was something that I'd found independently and then came back to. So I'd just say my dad's record collection rather than any kind of signed CD or rare album or something. It just means a lot more to know that those are the old copies that he bought in 70, 71, 72, those kind of things.
Makes sense to me. Since we're the Contrarians, what's something that you're very contrarian on?
Oh boy. I mean, I don't tend to hide my opinions very much. People might have noticed that. I mean, I can't stand the Eagles, but I don't think that's a very contrarian opinion. I mean, I genuinely think they are worthless. I'm completely worthless. People will usually mitigate it, but I do like. No, I think they're completely worthless. I think genuinely the Eagles took the best aspects of the band, of the cosmic scene that Graham Parsons was working on, Latter Birds, and just shaved off any rough edges and made it marketable. And David Geffen exploited that, or was it Asylum? Exploited that to the moon, and you know, anything that they stumbled into that sounds remotely interesting musically tends to just be because somebody else came up with it, like Jackson Browne doing Take It Easy, or, you know, when Joe Walsh obviously had already been in the James Gang, that kind of thing. So Timothy B. Schmidt was in Poco. So yeah, pretty much the Eagles are but that's not a massively contrarian take. So I'll give you one that's more on our in our sphere, if you will. My favorite Black Sabbath album is Technical Ecstasy.
Nice.
So those and it's one of those cases where it sounds like, oh my god, what's wrong with the first 4 albums? But it's more a case of, like a lot of people, I hold the first 8 Aussies in such high regard that it's, you know, you're talking percentage points of a difference, really. So Technical Ecstasy to me just sounds like a band much more comfortable to write the kind of songs that they wanted to write rather than what they were expected to write to that point. They were past having to come up with what people expect, this kind of doomy feel, and oh, is this spooky enough for our audience? That kind of thing, you know. They moved past that and beyond it. And to me, You Won't Change Me and Bill Ward starting to sing and things, it's just not just a step in the right direction. It's almost this separate Sabbath for those last couple of Aussie records that I just absolutely love. Never Say Die is not quite as good, but I'll defend that to the hilt as well. So yeah,
Love
I
Never Say
like.
Die.
Yeah, I love those last couple of Aussie records, and I don't understand the hate. I think it's a bit like Gentle Giant. People criticize those last couple, like Giant for a Day and things. Well, it's going to pop, and I always have an issue with people criticizing progressive music for actually daring to progress. You know, God forbid they should try something new occasionally when they're called progressive rock. You know, sometimes to progress, you have to take chances that doesn't work. And science is all about progression. Science falls down very often, but then it picks itself back up and tries a new method. And for me, some of those albums, like Giant for a Day, if people listen to them not as a follow up to, say, Gentle Giant's Octopus or one of the classic early albums, but just listen to it in its own merits, then they would have a much better time with it. A bit like, say, 90125 by Yes. You know, it's such a different enterprise. That, you know, don't compare it to Fragile. Don't compare it to Close to the Edge. You know, it's you take everything on its own merits. Don't review what it isn't. Review what it is. It's always my kind of strategy for these things.
Awesome. I got one more question and then a couple of wrap up things. But on that note of Black Sabbath, I found that I used to think for a long time, my favorite albums laid somewhere in between Master Reality and Volume 4. But and I love those last 2 Ozzy albums. I agree with you a lot. Those first 8 are like my favorites. They're almost like picking children. But lately I've been finding that Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is my favorite. Have you had a change of opinion on anything lately that you had for a long time? Like, did you have a favorite album by an artist for a long time that you just switched it up somewhat recently, either a big change of opinion or a small change of opinion?
They are one of my favorite bands, but the Beatles frequently do that for me. I mean, again, it's all relative. To say they're not one of my favorite bands, I still recognize the greatness of the Beatles. Just personally, they wouldn't be in my top 10 or even top 20 groups to listen to. But for a long time, I did kind of go with the more orthodox choices of the Beatles, of Peppers and the like. But more recently, I found myself much more drawn to thinking that Let It Be is their best album, which I think it's because as I get older, I do appreciate the much more scuzzy nature and thrown together ideas that are a hodgepodge. And it's a bit of a dog's dinner in places, but that's what I kind of love about it, that it's a band on their last legs trying to put something together, and they're such musical savants that they can do that, even though they are hemorrhaging at the end of their career, pretty much. So I used to be much more of a, oh no, it has to be Sergeant Pepper's, or it has to be Revolver, which obviously is getting a lot of press at the moment due to the new box set. But these days, I'm much more interested in the stranger stuff from them, where it comes to odd tracks from the White Album. Even Abbey Road, I tend to prefer side one. I know everybody goes on about side two, Abbey Road with the Great Sweep, but I love side one of Abbey Road. I'd say the Beatles are probably one of the bands where I have come around the most. Whereas other bands, I'm trying to think of where I've really altered course on. I'll be honest with you, the Eagles won't be changing anytime soon unless we do a massive re-listen. But Sabbath are an interesting one because for a long time I did have, I wouldn't say an Aussie resistance, but I was 16 going on 17 when the Osbournes came out. And it was very hard for me to rectify in my mind the fact that I'm being presented with this awful reality TV show crap. And that's what everybody knows. But also, here's Diary of a Madman, here's The Blizzard of Oz. So it was almost putting me off Aussie at that point, as a teen getting into Sabbath. And that drove me much closer to Ronnie James Dio's era. Whereas later on, I just learned to say, listen, that's just a purely business decision to do a television reality show. Ozzy's been corporate for the last 42-ish years since he really hooked up with Sharon. So, it doesn't matter. It doesn't impact the music. So I can kind of remedy it now in my head and say that I can move past that. And I'm not as, can I get past Ozzy being a figure of fun or almost cartoonish figure and just appreciate the music? Yes, I can these days. Because sometimes there's nothing wrong with being a bit of a cartoonish figure of fun either. I've come to accept that in my older and wiser years, hopefully. So, yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to do some rapid fire. You can only pick one questions. Then we're going to do a wrap up. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Some of these are related to our interview so far. Okay. John Lennon or Paul McCartney? Pick one.
Paul McCartney. Used to be John Lennon. It's definitely Paul McCartney.
Ozzy Osbourne solo or Black Sabbath post Ozzy?
Oh, dude, I'll tell you. Gosh, it's those first two. In fact, no, because I'm not too crazy about one of them. I'll go with Sabbath post Ozzy because I think they at least try some interesting things with Dio. Tony Martin's a great singer, if not the most dynamic person. You get Dio back, you get Ozzy back, and hey, you get some rap in the mid-90s.
Yeah,
why not?
Ice-T, yeah.
Yeah.
Dracula or Frankenstein?
In general, it would be the Dracula mythos, but if we're talking specifically Hammer, it would be Frankenstein, which are much more interesting films, with a much more broad spectrum, where Peter Cushing's Baron
Peter Cushing gives it away a little bit, because I think I would assume you like him as a villain more than a hero.
Generally speaking, yes, although I love him as Sherlock Holmes, for example, and Hound of the Baskervilles. I think he's just so wonderful. He can do both in his sleep. And I love Christopher Lee as both as well. He didn't get the chance to be the hero much, but inside The Devil Rides Out, he's a fantastic hero. But yeah, overall, so if we're talking Stoker versus Shelley, I do prefer Dracula. I like the mythos more of the vampire lore and whatnot, but for Hammer specifically, it's the Frankenstein movies any day of the week.
Studio songs or live songs?
Always artist dependent. If we're talking about, say, another couple of my favorites, Bob Dylan and Bruce Springsteen. We're probably talking live. If we're talking the 70s, where they were just explosive, or the 60s in Dylan's case as well. If we're talking some other artists, then studio. I'm a big fan of good production, and which doesn't always mean slick production, but just suitable production. So studio for me, and then you can always fill it up with ancillary later on. So studio, generally speaking, bar some artists who at certain periods just always sound better live.
George Lazenby or Timothy Dalton?
Oh, easy. Timothy Dalton is my favorite. Is my favorite one.
Oh, right on. Sean Connery or Roger Moore?
Sean Connery. Roger's my least favorite one. So this is very easy. This is very easy. This round.
Right on. Last one. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Film or music? You can only pick one. One word. Give me one word answer and pick one.
Okay. Gosh. Okay, I will. Rather than checking out, I will. And I'll say film. And the reason being, because you still get music in film.
There you go. Awesome.
Whereas you don't get film and music. I suppose you get music videos and things, but I can still have my soundtracks and I can still have my scores. So yeah.
There you go. Blurring the lines again. Where can we find you? What do you got coming up? Yeah,
so again, with the nice catchy handles that YouTube have given, it's just at Flicks Nitpicks. That's picks with a CKS at the end. Again, I've just started this series on the band with music from Big Pink this week. What else has been on recently? It's all over the shop, and there's been videos with Ryan and Tyler on Reanimator for some horror content, horror comedy content. Ryan and I covered Phantom of the Paradise recently, which mixes music and movie. It's a horror musical from 1974 by Brian De Palma. Yeah, I mean, there'll be also Jackie Chan stuff has been on the channel recently. There's going to be a series coming up soon where I have a look at some of the works of one of my favorite television writers of all time, who also wrote the scripts for Halloween 3 that was kind of thrown away. But the UK's own Nigel Neal did the Quatermass project. So he did Quatermass and the Pig, Quatermass 2 and whatnot. But in the UK, he's revered the Crunch. One thing that got me into a bit of bother when somebody saw a photo that I put on Facebook, because they thought I was watching a dirty film. No, it's not a dirty film, but it is called The Year of the Sex Olympics. But it's not a dirty film. There's nothing. It's let's see, suitable for persons of 15 years or over. So there's nothing dirty about it. It's a treatise on reality television, but made in the 1960s. So I'm going to be doing a kind of sub-series on Nigel Neal, which, again, I'm starting to realize that a lot of these things on my channel, I kind of drifted away from doing passion projects. And passion is what sells me on other people's channels. If I see that somebody cares, it can really hook me in. And sometimes you cultivate a brand new audience just through, things that you wouldn't imagine even anybody would be interested in the first place. I did a British ghost story last Christmas when I first joined YouTube called The Amazing Mr. Blunden. It's a pretty obscure movie. And I think I had about 50 subscribers at the time, and it somehow ended up with 700 views. And I didn't know how. None of my videos had about more than 70 at that point, 100 maybe. And it turned out it was because it was the only video on Mr. Blunden on YouTube. So and it's a bit of a Christmas classic in the UK, low key. So everybody that had a bit of nostalgia that Christmas logged on and, well, I'll see if there's any Mr. Blunden on YouTube. Oh wait, there's one video, and it's me going, hello there, with my camera awkwardly positioned because I didn't know how to do things at the time, which again has never stopped me since. But so one bizarre little video on a very obscure subject kind of trickled into you know, I think it's now not far off 1,000 views. So, you know, and I'll pimp it this Christmas as well. Why not? I've already done the hard work. I may as well pimp it again. So, you know, these kind of things, they may not appeal to everybody. Just like, I mean, here's Bob Dylan's new book. I saw Bob Dylan the other day. I was thinking of doing a review on this. It's his new book of essays on 66 songs that sum up the history of popular music. But there's a picture in here that you'll love, Marco. Being an Elvis Presley fan, it's a picture I've never seen of Elvis in a record store in Memphis in the 1950s. Cool. That's a really cool picture, isn't it? So, yeah. I'm guessing he could afford to pick up a few records that day. I'm sure he didn't have to ask the clerk to stick them aside and he'll come in tomorrow with his pocket money. So yeah, so the real idea of my channel is if I don't get bored, then hopefully I won't bore the audience too much. So if I keep it fresh and come up with my own takes, which is something I try and do when I'm on the Contrarians, or when I'm on Sea Tranquility, or when I'm on, especially when I'm on like Ryan's channel, Grant's channel, people that become really good friends. Things can be found online. You know, you can find a million reviews these days and blogs and YouTube videos. So try and come up with your own original take, and then by default it must be the correct answer. So, you know, just try and keep things fresh and interesting. Is really my raison d'etre, my kind of mantra as it goes. So yeah.
Very cool. And that's Davy's Music Picks and Cinema Flicks.
Oh, something like Cinema Flicks and Music Picks.
Got it backwards.
The handles have been introduced for people like me that came up with stupid names at the start. So yeah.
Picks and Flicks. Flicks and Picks. Gotcha.
Flicks,
I'll get it one day, I promise.
And then somebody pointed out that could also have connotations to people that put their finger in inappropriate places. I think that's unpleasant to talk about, and frankly, I'm not going there. But however, even YouTube is setting me a rather juvenile handle, so they know what I'm all about. So yeah.
All right, thanks for joining me today, Davey. All of you folks at home, go and check out Davey's channel. He's a regular contributor to our channel and a bunch of other channels. He loves music, he loves film, he likes giving back. You can check out his channel for free. We're all creating free content, so if you like it, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And thanks, Davey. And I'm going to put you on the hot seat. Who should I contact next? Who do you want to see on Contrarian Spotlight?
Well, I guess because and see if he denies it, because I also encouraged him so much to go into covering film as well as music. Go for Ryan. Go for Ryan.
All right, I'm going to reach out to Ryan next. If he's not interested, you'll see somebody else in the next episode, but we'll see if Ryan joins us next. Thanks, Davey.
Pleasure. Thanks, Marco.